Five brothers, five bros. Heaven Hill has gifted us with another brand under their huge umbrella. Did we need this one, or is it a must-hunt in Kentucky? Let's find out on the Mash and Drum. What's up, folks? I am Jason C. from the Mash and Drum. Today we talk about Heaven Hill's newest release of Five Brothers Small Batch Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, a small batch blending of 5 ages of bourbon. Five Brothers Bourbon pays homage to the courage, dedication, and solidarity of the five Shapira brothers who started it all in 1935. The story of the Shapira brothers begins with their father, Max Shapira, who set sail for America around 1888 for a new life. He was raised in a port town in Lithuania, which was part of Russia at the time. He was a Jewish immigrant and was a son from a poor family and left during a time when the area was depressed economically. Now, Max arrived in the United States in New Orleans, but moved to a suburb of Louisville, Kentucky called New Haven in about 1920. Now, his first job in Kentucky was a door-to-door salesman peddling small houseware items like needles, threads, thimbles, and lotions. Then in the middle of the most difficult economic times during the Depression and Prohibition, he opened a brick and mortar store just outside Louisville and called it the Louisville Store. Max met and married Annie Berlin around the turn of the century. He was happily married and had 6 sons, 5 of which lived to adulthood, as each of those boys grew up, graduated from school, and worked as an apprentice with him. David, Ed, Gary, George, and Mose were set up in their own identical Louisville stores to run and make a living by keeping part of the profits. Now, Ed Shapira's Louisville store was located in Bardstown, Kentucky, which prior to Prohibition was known for its vast number of whiskey distilleries. Now, when Prohibition ended in 1933, everybody in the country thought they could start their own bourbon business and make money hand over fist. Now, 5 local Bardstown businessmen, including Ed and David Shapira and Mr. Joseph L. Beam, who was Jim Beam's cousin, put their heads and their wallets together, and then they started their own distillery. Fast forward to December 13th, 1935, the first barrel was filled at Heaven Hill Distillery. The name was taken from William Heaven Hill, a farmer who previously owned the land where the distillery was built. An old wise tale claims that when one of the partners went and applied for the distillery permit, he typed the name wrong as 2 words instead of 1. From that point, the name just stuck. Now, the first whiskey sold from the distillery with Harry Beam as their first master distiller was a 2-year-old brand called Bourbon Falls. Now, after some financial troubles around 1939, the 5 Shapira brothers, David, Ed, Gary, George, and Mose, all agreed to invest $20,000 to buy out their partners and keep the business running. So they parted ways with Mr. Joe and Harry Beam. They had to find someone who knew the distilling business, since none of the Shapiras knew anything about the whiskey industry. Ed and David Shapira, who had been the active partners on site, went straight to the top of the bourbon world and hired Park Beam, Jim Beam's brother, as their second master distiller. In 1940, a well-aged premium brand of 5-year-old bourbon was released called Old Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond. Within a few years, this gold-labeled brand became the #1 selling bourbon in the entire state of Kentucky. So the company continued its rapid growth as the Shapiras ran the business side of things, and Park Beam and his son Earl Beam ran the production side of the distilling operation. So in 1957, Heaven Hill introduced Evan Williams Kentucky Straight Bourbon. This brand would go on to become the world's #2 selling bourbon and Heaven Hill's flagship brand. Since then, Heaven Hill has stayed a family business over the years. In fact, the longest surviving of the 5 Shapira brothers was George Shapira, who passed away in 1996. The 5 Shapira brothers were inducted into the Bourbon Hall of Fame as a collective group in only its 2nd class in 2002. So now to the bourbon. 5 Brothers Bourbon is comprised of Heaven Hill's traditional mash bill, 78 corn, 10 rye, 12% malted barley, aged from 5 to 9 years old to represent each founding brother. So this is bottled at 90 proof. Get a pour here. Now, it's bottled at 90 proof as kind of a callback to the initial proof points that Heaven Hill used back in the day. In 1935, my father and his 4 brothers invested in a speculative venture that today is the largest family-owned and operated distillery in America, Heaven Hill Distillery, said Max L. Shapira, Heaven Hill president. With patience and perseverance, they built the foundation for the nationally acclaimed American whiskey portfolio we enjoy today, and a legacy built on consistent quality and innovation. So recently, Heaven Hill opened Five Brothers Bar and Kitchen in the brand new Heaven Hill Bourbon Experience and Visitor Center on June 14th. Five Brothers Bourbon is available for $60 at the Heaven Hill Bourbon Experience in Bardstown, Kentucky, and also select retailers in Kentucky. Now, Heaven Hill has a wealth of brands, as you guys know. Henry McKenna, Larceny, Old Fitzgerald, Elijah Craig, Evan Williams, Parker's Heritage. The big question is, this being $60, is it that much better than the new 90 proof $18 Evan Williams 1783, which is 6 to 8 years old, or the 94 proof Elijah Craig small batch flagship, set to be around 8 to 9 years old, for only $30. So we're gonna compare, but let's dive into this first. First thing you get on the nose is just classic Heaven Hill. It's extremely peanut forward. A lot of silky peanut butter type notes here. Very vanilla and caramel. Maybe the slightest hint of chocolate there. I mean, nothing really jumping out of the glass. It's just very, you know, Heaven Hill, straight bourbon forward, I guess. Man, it's crazy peanut butter. Crazy peanut. This would be hard to distinguish from either being Heaven Hill or a Beam product, a Jim Beam product. Man. Yeah, I mean, there's not much jumping out of the glass here, guys. I mean, this is all just peanut, peanut butter, a little bit of chocolate. You get your typical caramel vanillas. There's some oak there too. But yeah, very straightforward. All right, let's go for a sip, guys. Cheers. And on the palate, more peanut. This is as peanutty as it gets, or peanut buttery as it gets. I wouldn't say it has that dry, shelled peanut characteristic to it. To me, this is more peanut butter. There's a little bit of a sweetness to it, a little bit more of a sugary sweet kick to it. But a lot of the vanillas, the caramels are all mixed in there. But yeah, the dominating note here I'm getting is just peanut butter. Get a slight hint of chocolate and spice on the very, very back end. But man, is this thing drink easy. There's really barely any finish to it at all. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say about it, unfortunately. There's just the peanut dominates, the peanut butter dominates, I should say. It actually has a nice mouthfeel for a 90 proofer. It's not overly thin, but I mean, it does kind of leave you wanting more. Let's give another sip and we'll compare. Yeah, there's really not much going on here, guys. It's very straightforward. Caramel, vanilla, peanut butter, chocolate, little hint of spice there on the back end. I mean, man, for $60, I don't know about this one. Let's compare it to Elijah Craig Small Batch and also the new Evan Williams 1783 and see how this stacks up. All right, guys, here's the 1783, the new one. So they just recently upped the proof to 90. I was a big fan of this when I tried. I thought it was actually great for the price. This is the big dog. This is the 1.75. I think I paid about $30-ish for this, but the 750 is about $20, 18, 20 bucks. So if you guys haven't seen this yet, highly recommend this one still. And then the stalwart, the flagship brand, I think, of Heaven Hill, Elijah Craig. So many brands branched off of Elijah Craig. You have the small batch, you have the barrel proof. Now we have the toasted, we have the rye, and I'm sure there's more to come in the future. This is at 94 proof and still cheaper than this one. Let's compare them real quick. So 1783. So the Evan Williams, to me, actually has a more, I want to say a distinct bourbon nose, but so with the 1783, the biggest difference is very vanilla forward. I feel like you get more baking spices in here. There's a little bit more of a hint of cinnamon here. Slight hint of like a butterscotch note. I even feel like you get more of an oak presence in 1783. Now we compare it to the Five Brothers. Yeah, the Five Brothers, I mean, you compare these, holy peanut butter, Batman. It just comes off so much more peanut butter when you do the comparison. Let's go to the Elijah Craig. Man, you could smell more of the spice in Elijah Craig. A little bit hint of cherry, maybe some apple. I think the Elijah Craig overall gives you what these have, but actually gives you a little bit of a fruit punch to it as well. All right, let's sip the Elijah Craig. Just way more classic, delicious bourbon flavors. Very balanced, a little bit more spice, some fruit. Again, the apple, the cherry coming through a little bit on the Elijah Craig, and at least on this bottle. As it opens up, I feel like Elijah Craig does get a little bit more, fruity over time. Most stuff from Heaven Hill, I think, actually. All right, let's go to the 1783. The 1783 actually has like this little pop of bubble gum that I'm getting on there too. But I also feel like it's carrying more spice than even the Five Brothers. Elijah Craig and 1783 are coming off a little bit more balanced. The 1783 may not have the fruit punch that I'm getting at the Elijah Craig, but I feel like it's just more interesting. It's bringing some more spice, a little more chocolate. Yeah, a little hint of a bubblegum note there. The Elijah Craig. Yeah, I think Elijah Craig, just regular 94 proof Elijah Craig overall, definitely beats both of these, I think. Yeah, the Five Brothers just doesn't have a lot going on. It's all peanut butter. That's really all I get. All right. I think we've compared it enough. I think I have my notes here. Final breakdown. All right, guys, so for the final breakdown on the Five Brothers, price, like I said, price is $60. Secondary value, I haven't seen these on secondary at all yet. Availability, as I mentioned, this is only available right now at select retailers within Kentucky, but mostly at the new Heaven Hill Bourbon Experience at the gift shop. Let's talk about value. This is a $60 bourbon from Heaven Hill. I'm gonna say the value is low here. I don't like the price of this for $60. I understand you have different ages of whiskey blended in here. But so I think this comes to show you how many great quality bourbons and whiskeys that Heaven Hill has under their umbrella. They have so many good ones that it's hard to pull the trigger on this release when you have great bourbons out there like Elijah Craig and Evan Williams, all at the same proof point or near the same proof point, and they're asking more than double the price for this one. What's the most I would pay for this one? Man. I mean, considering I like the, to me, this is like, I don't know, a $25, $30 bourbon. Honestly, I mean, $60 I think is a big price hike for what you're getting for the experience overall. Finally, do I recommend? For me, no. I wouldn't recommend picking up this one. I think Elijah Craig and Evan Williams 1783 give you just as good, if not better, experiences than this does at less than half the price. The only thing with this is that it's one of those bottles you're going to walk into the experience center, or you're going to go to Heaven Hill and it's going to be sitting there. And if it's only available there, you're going to be you're going to be swayed to buy it, only because you can only maybe get it there and maybe at a couple places around Kentucky. You can only get it there. So you're going to be swayed to, I want to get that Five Brothers. Now, from a retail standpoint, from a Heaven Hill business standpoint, it's a smart move. You have a $60 price point bourbon. The bourbon in the bottle is not that old. You're probably upcharging it a little bit more than it's worth, so you're going to make a good amount of money on these, experience center only releases. The one thing I would say to you guys, if you go to the experience center, you see the bottle, you just want to add it to the collection because you're there. I get it. Pay the $60. You're done with it. But I would not buy more than one bottle of this. I have this one bottle. I'm never going to buy another bottle of this again. All right, guys. Well, hope you enjoyed this review for the brand new Heaven Hill Five Brothers Bourbon. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the subscribe button below. Please hit the like button. If you haven't yet, follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter. Let me know if you've had this yet, what you think of it. Was it worth the $60 to you? And as I always say, it's not about the whiskey. It's the people you share it with. So cheers. And I'll see you next time right here on the Mash and Drum. Cheers, everybody.